I hope my screen is visible to all of you.
Yes, Bibu, it's visible.
Okay. So today's session we are going to discuss on source code management system, specifically the tool Git. So these are the topics, or you can say agenda, we are going to discuss today. What is version control system? My voice is audible to all of you, or it's
No, Bibu, now it is clear. Earlier it was little low.
okay? Moving go ahead, we are going to discuss what is version control system, what are the types of version control system, Git falls under which version control system, what are the advantages, why we are opting Git, what are the terminologies. Of course, if you do not understand the terminologies, so it will be difficult to uh, cope up. Basic workflow of Git, how can you set up the environment and how to
Your
use it.
voice is feeble. I don't know if it's only on side or everyone, but
Low or it is breaking?
low. Now it is okay. Earlier it was low.
Okay.
It's low actually.
Okay, let me check.
Go ahead, try speaking some more.
No, let me just check my settings if something is there. Let me check my system volume. That's 100%. Is it something better or it is still the same?
It's much better, Bibu. Go ahead.
Okay, great. Yeah, so then we'll discuss how to configure GitLab. Then what is the life cycle of Git? A bit overview of what is tracked, untracked files. Basic commands which you are going to use further, what are the commands which are applicable from DevOps point of view. Those commands we are going to discuss, and few branching merging concept along with tagging, and few topics on Git Advanced. So before moving, discuss about the version control system. So I want to discuss what are the real challenges if version control system doesn't exist. So prior to version control system, what are the challenges so that it come into the industries and in the world. So listed down few of the challenges like collaboration, storing versions, restoring previous versions, understanding what happened, and backup. So what does mean by collaboration prior to version control system? So prior to version control system, we probably work in a shared folder structure. So there are a lot, 2-3 members working in a project, and we have a shared folder. We are working on that files which is present in that shared directory, and let's say 3 users A, B, C. A is working on file X, and at the same time B also wants to update something on file X. So he or she cannot open that file, or either open that file, he or she edited that file, at the same time A is also editing that file, and while saving those two files it will be a chaos. So either B should wait till the user A work got finished, or he or she need to pick some other tasks. So it is simply a collaboration clash between the team members while you're working in a shared directory. In the same scenario, storing versions is also a real challenge. Like you have changed some of the files and proceeded to release 2, and nobody remembers what is what has been changed in version 1 when we reach to version 10. So it will be difficult to identify what are the changes we did 3 months back or 1 month back or 6 months back. So either you need to put it in somewhere like a document, you need to create it, or you need to maintain an Excel sheet or somewhere. But that is the responsibility of any single person or all the person in the team, that they time to time update what are the changes and all these things. So that is a tedious job. It is not meant for that person who is developing or who is doing the testing or doing the automation, that he or she always write what he has changed in a file, and suppose someone deleted that file, so everything gone. There is nothing trackable what have been changed and on those things. So that is also a second challenge. And how do you differentiate what is exactly change? Like 5 persons working on a single project, and A is saying I have changed this one, and sometime after he is saying no, I forgot, might be I have changed the file Y, not file X. So it is a bit difficult to identify what actually happened, and the truth is not on everybody's hand. So that is a second challenge. Third one is restoring your previous versions. So down the line, when I worked on the we 3-4 members working on the project, and they wanted to restore some previous versions, what has happened on that build, or suppose a feature X has been developed 3 months back and we have some enhancement in feature X after 3 months. So we did some of the changes, and we when we test it during unit test or during the validation test, we found some issues, and we want to go back to the version X and see if everything works fine or not. So in the traditional shared folder structure, either you need to uh, create a server and store each and every release version continuously, and you do some documentation and say that version X has these changes, and then you copy those file into your testing environment and then you test it. So that will be tedious, right? So it is a mashup actually by how you are going to restore and do the same execution pattern in this. The third one is understanding what happened. So when you are when you save the new version of your project, so it will be like every time when you save a new version of your project, so you need to with version control system, you are putting a comment actually what is I am going to change is a short summary. So with shared folder structure or in a central like server, it will be difficult for you to maintain each and every thing what we are going to change in this version. So initially for 1 month you are doing very prettily, very happily, but down the line it will be a tedious and headache for every person that will maintain each and every lines of changes in a file or something. So that is also a big problem. Yes, I mentioned backup also, like you have to maintain a large server, and every version of your code changes, you need to be put it there, and there is somebody like your IT team or someone need to take care of that machine, that server as well. So you are also dependent on that person and that machine. If that machine gone, so everything gone. You cannot restore it because it is in a server, and it is also in shared structure. So to mitigate all these challenges, to overcome all these challenges, the version control system comes into picture. It got evolved actually. So what is this version control system? It is simply a software that helps software developer to work together and maintain a complete history of their work. So what are the challenges we discussed so far? So version control system easily handles all those things. So of course there are some protocols you need to follow to maintain all those things, like how you are going to commit those changes, how you are restoring those files or your repository in remote location, so that anybody can access at any time, or people can work in a shared structure. So those are the protocols which we need to follow with version control system. But yes, it is not a headache at all to maintain a file, to track each and everything. There are some persons to handle those, maintain those servers and all those things. That is completely gone. So what are the functions? So allows developer to work simultaneously, doesn't allow overwriting each other's changes. Like I mentioned that file X is being currently working by user A, and at the same time user B also can work on file X. While we are going to put both the changes in the in your project, so version control system doesn't allow that you can blindly merge your code, or you can blindly put all the changes in a single file. It will ask you if you want to change it or overwrite it or not, and if you want to overwrite it, you should also mention the reasoning, and you need to resolve the conflicts. Then only it will allow to merge everything, so that the history will be maintained and anybody can analyze what has happened, who has changed all those things, and where a bug has been introduced. uh, Third is maintains a history of every version. So whenever you want to check what are the commits, what are the changes we have in our code repository, so you can simply execute few commands and you can easily identify what is the history of my project, who changed when, and what is the ID of that change, when it has been changed, how many files has been changed, how many lines has been changed. So those can be easily tracked. So now comes what are the different types of version control system. So mainly there are two types: centralized version control system. Second one is your distributed version control system, or decentralized, you can say, in other words. So what is the main difference between this centralized and decentralized version control system? So centralized is like there is a central server where your code repository will be placed, and there are different team members who working on this repository. They will take a working copy of that repository in your local machine, and whenever they want to change it, they will change their code in this working copy, and they will update it to the central repository. So the one demerit of the central version control system is you need to be always connected with your remote repository, which is the central server. Whatever the changes you are going to do, commit, update, everything will be online. So there is always the internet connectivity is required to do these operations to do the sync up between your central server and your local system, local working repository. So what is the main drawback here? If the central server repository hard disk got crashed or something happened to mishappening to the central server, so your code repository is gone and nobody can work on that situation. Also, whenever your internet connectivity is not there, you will be not able to work in this central version control system, because it is required always a connectivity to your central server. So now to handle this challenge, we have a different version control system, that is the distributed. So what is special in this? So every working copy is a client, and it has a complete backup of your central server repository in your local machine. So number of people working on this central repository or this project, they have the complete replica of the central server copy in their local machine. Whatever the changes, whatever the files they are going to change, that can be done offline. They can do it in the local machine. Whenever they want to push the changes to the central server, then only the internet connectivity is required. So if there is no internet connectivity, then it is not dependent on the central server. They can work on the local system, they can save it, and whenever required, connected to your internet and connect to the central server, and you can directly push and update those changes to the server. So in that case, if your central server goes down or corrupted the hard disk, so every team member have their the working copy, exact replica of the central server, so that can easily be restored in the remote server. So that is the main plus point of distributed version control system. So in the meantime, if user A also got lost the data and he or she not able to proceed for this, not able to connect or something, so you can directly copy your local in your local machine with some other team members, and you can work also. So that is because everybody has their has this replica of your actual project repository. So this is a pictorial differentiation between central version control system and distributed. So the example of central version control system is Subversion, that SVN. It uses the CVCS technology, and Git is one of the distributed version control system, where you can see we can do everything: revert, log, status, branching, merge, everything you can do locally, and whenever required, only the push and pull mechanism requires internet connectivity. In case of this, you have working copy only, and everything is done in your central repository. So you need to be always connected to your central repository. So what are the advantages of Git? We already discussed what is distributed version control system, but what is the benefit of using Git? So there are a lot of tools for distributed version control system, like Mercurial, Bajar. Those are also tools, but Git is widely used in every industry. Almost all industries adopting Git. So why we are going for Git? So first of all, it is free and open source, unless so you can create your public and private projects using Git. There's no problem. So to create your repository in some remote server, you have different options like GitLab, Bitbucket, GitHub. So those you need to choose according to your requirement, uh, how your industry or your company is going to adopt which tool. So we'll discuss GitLab bit detail going forward. So here we are focusing on Git tool. So I will explain what is the difference of GitLab. I use Git, not GitHub, or when you use GitHub. Those things we'll discuss in subsequent uh, slides. So it is free and open source. You can download it at any time. It is fast and small. The Git is written in C language, so it is very fast, and it is not like the runtime. It is not overheading. It's like other high-level languages. Like some good tools have been written in Ruby, some tools written in Python. So Git is written in C, and also it is fast because everything you are doing in your local system. So it is not connected always to your remote repository through internet, so it is fast as well. Implicit backup, yes, there is a Git has that mechanism. It will take the backup automatically. No need to worry about I need to copy every time or store it somewhere in your local hard disk or something. It is being automatically handled. Security, yes, it has a secure mechanism like your SHA-1 algorithm is being followed here to encrypt the data, and uh, whenever you are doing any changes to your code, when you are going to commit those changes, that these are my last changes, so it will generate a token which is the SHA-1 token, and it is very hard to change anything by cracking that SHA-1 you can say key, and you cannot do anything without knowing Git. So whatever you are going to change, a file, date, commit message, everything will be recorded in Git, so it can be easily tracked. So it is from security point of view, it is highly secure. No need of powerful hardware, so it is basically for the central server. So every developer is working in their in the local machine, so there is no need of heavy lifting in your central server. The machine configuration, uh, you can do a simple machine configuration for your central server, because whatever the heavy lifting is required, it can be done in your client side only, that is your local machine. So to maintaining that uh, server, it is not an tedious part, so there is no need of powerful hardware. Easier branching, yes, branching concept we'll discuss how what is branching and what all, but for now just a glimpse. Like branching is like a feature development. Whenever you try to develop any feature, you need to create a branch so that all the working current working copy will be moved into your that branch, and you will work there, and whenever you required, if everything is done, you can directly merge into your actual timeline. So with central version control system, it is a bit tedious, because whenever you do any branches, the complete code is going to be in your that branch. But in distributed control system like Git, you have only the required files will be pulled into that branch, and not the whole project. Like you have 10 files in your actual project, and in branch X you have changed only 3 files, so that 3 files will be carried in that branch, and it will merge into your actual timeline whenever your work is done. Then move to a few terminologies which we are going to use, or whenever you are going to use Git, or some of you are already using Git. So these are the basic terminologies that private workplace in your local machine. So developer make changes in the private workplace, and after commit, these changes become a part of the repository. So I hope it is understandable. Working directory is the place where files are checked out. Means once your development is done, you are going to check out to the directory. So that is called your working directory. Next is your staging area or index. Staging area is like uh, when you change a file or few files, you need to get it. You have to tell Git that these are my changed files. So Git will always read the staging area, that whatever the files changed in the staging area, that only going to your final commit. So if file X, Y have changed, you have changed X and Y, so you need to put those files into your staging area. Then only Git will know that yes, X and Y is the only change. It will take the snapshot and it will move forward. When you try to commit it and merge it, it will work on those files only. Okay. What are the commits? Commits are like the current state of the repository. Like when you add those changes to your staging area and you commit it, so that is the current state of your working repository, that these are my changes, and after that changes it will generate a SHA-1 hash, that is a key, which is nothing but a address or pointer of your changes. So if you know about linked list, so that is the node part actually, the commit object. Branches, I have already told what are branches. Pull mechanism is like whenever you want to sync your local repository or working directory with the remote, you need to do a pull operation. Then only the latest code will be come to your local repository. Otherwise, you will, because a lot of people are working on your project, so everybody is doing the changes and they are pushing those changes to your remote repository. If you are not going to pull the latest changes on your local machine or working directory, so your commits, your changes will be behind of that actual timeline. So while you are trying to merge those changes or trying to put those changes in your actual repository, it will be create a conflict, and you have to resolve those conflicts. Then only your changes will be reflected there. So the pull mechanism is like you have to do a synchronization between your remote repository and local repository. Push operation is like when you want to push your local changes to the remote repository, so you need to push those changes. So push is that operation. Tags are like it is mainly used when you are going to deliver your code or software in the production. So it is simply a um, identification of your repository, that yes, in April end we have done production 1.0, so I have tagged my repository as version 1.0. So in the end of June I am doing production 2.0. So by end of June, whatever the repository is available, so I am tagging it as a 2.0. So what is the benefit of this? Suppose production 1.0 is in the in your field, in the market, and production 2.0 is targeted for few clients, and in the runtime you got some defects from the production 1.0 for the clients which are running with production 1.0 version. So the developers needs to fix those changes in the production 1.0 build only, right? Because production 2.0 is not yet reached to those clients. So during that situation, you can easily move to that production 1.0 release and try to solve those defects, and then you can merge it as a patch or something like production 1.1 version. So if that change is applicable to your production 2.0, then you can also put patch on your production 2.0 going forward. So that will be helpful. The tag is helpful in that scenario. Clone is like before pulling your remote repository into your local repository, so you have to do a clone mechanism. Then only that remote repository will come to your local system and you start working on that. So this is the clone mechanism. So I will show you how to clone that. We'll discuss in detail what are the commands available for all these things. So going forward, when we discuss what are the basic commands, we'll check all these things. So next is head. Head is your like the pointer of your current working condition of your repository, and it is where that head is pointing to. So that is basically your latest commit in the branch. Whenever you make a commit, head is updated with the latest commit. Okay, so this is the directory where your heads are being saved. So but never do anything into this file. This is only when you install Git or do the clone, you will get this .git file as a hidden file. So that means these files should not be edited. Okay, URL is your whenever you configure your project in remote repository, so you will get a URL to clone that project into your local machine. So that is the structure will be like something git user git server.com and project git. So it will be automatically generated by the tools which you are going to use like GitLab or Bitbucket. So that will be easy to clone your remote repository into your local machine. So any questions so far here? Guys, I'm not seeing the chart actually. If you have any questions, you can directly ask. Okay, just give me a second. So this picture shows what is the workflow of Git, how Git works. So if you say first what you need to do, you need to clone it so that you will get the working directory in your local machine. You modify some of the files, and after that you need to add those files into your staging area. Then only Git will understand that these are the things we need to I need to take care of. Okay, and if a particular version of a file is in Git directory, it is considered committed. If it has been modified and was added to the staging area, it is staged. And if it was changed since it was last checked out but has not been staged, it is modified. So we have not pushed those changes into staging area, so that will show you in a modified state. And whenever you add those files that these are the modified files, then that will move to your staging area. Those files are called as now staged files. And whenever those stage files are added to your remote repository, those files are now committed. Okay, so this is the basic flow. So if you have changed 2-3 files and you want to do in a single commit all 3 files, you can directly add those files. Or if you want, I want to do in a different commits for all the changes, all the files, you can do that as well. Okay, but if you in a one go, if you are not adding file A, B or C, so while you're trying to commit it, it will ask you first stage your changes, then only it will be proceed. So before moving into do a hands-on, these are the steps you can say how to configure your Git in your local machine. So here he mentioned depending on your machine, if you are using Linux or Unix, if you're using Mac or Windows, so these are the links. You can go through these links and you can directly download from there. For Linux, you can use these commands so that it can be easily installed. And for Windows, there is a you can go to gitscm.com and download the for Windows. So you will get Git for Windows. So that is nothing but Git Bash. So we have options of graphical user interface also to handle these Git from the GUI, but all the functionalities of Git is not achieved through GUI tool. So it is better to use your command line tool to get exposure of all the functionalities of Git. So I have installed in my machine Git Bash. So you can while you are doing the lab hands-on, you can directly download from these links I have mentioned here. Okay, you simply go to gitscm.com, git-scm.com. Will get the download option. Depending on your machine, you can download it on your machine. Then comes to your GitLab configuration. So what is GitLab? I'm just giving an overview. What is GitLab? So GitLab is a service that provides remote access to Git repositories. Suppose you started a project, uh, single member, and going forward you are trying to add 3-4 developers in that project. So till now you are working in your local machine, right? You are using Git and you are working in local machine and everything is maintained, history and everything. But when 2-3 more developers or your colleagues have been added into that project and they are also trying to simultaneously do the development, so you need to put your project in somewhere so that they can easily access. So either you follow the traditional older way like shared folder, but there are a lot of challenges in that. So we are opting, we'll go for version control system, and there you have different options how you can maintain your project in remote location, so that every member who have the access to that can easily work on that project by cloning that project and do their work in the remote system. So GitLab is one of the service who is providing this facility, and similarly GitLab similar to GitLab, we have tools like Bitbucket, GitHub as well. So GitHub by I guess 2018, GitHub was completely 2016 I guess. GitHub was free for private and public both, and after acquiring by Microsoft, the private project part is paid now through GitHub. But GitLab is completely free. Whatever you are going to use, private, public, you can you don't need to pay a single pay for that. So Bitbucket is one of that also, like GitLab. It is also free, but there are some challenges in Bitbucket, but both are similar. So many industries are using Bitbucket as well as GitLab. So one more advantage, like when you're going forward, learn how DevOps CI/CD part works. So we will in the subsequent session we'll learn how to integrate this GitLab or Git in your Jenkins, so that your CI/CD pipeline will be handled easily. Whenever the developer do the check-in and did the final commit, it will trigger the pipeline and your build will be automatically generated, and there are a lot of set of test cases or unit tests that will be executed, and if the criteria goes past, then your final deployment will be done. So those part will be covered in subsequent session, but here I'm trying to explain is GitLab can easily configurable using Jenkins. So that is also one of the advantage. So but the point is how you are going to configure GitLab, how your remote repository is going to be accessed by other users. So you need to access the gitlab.com URL, and there you can create a your user profile. And after using your user profile, creating your user profile, you need to create a project there. And if you see in the right side screenshot, I have given the screenshot. I will also will do the hands-on also how you're going to create this project. So when you create a project, it will ask you whether you want to do it public or private, if you want to create a readme file directly, or you want to do separately create readme file. So then you create a project, it will show you that project with the name which you have mentioned, and there will be a cloning option also present where you got the URL, and you can easily clone the project using git clone command. Okay, so we'll do the hands-on on this after we'll discuss the concept part. So how Git will understand that your machine is the right machine, so that your project will be cloned. So there are two ways to clone your project. So there is a HTTP link is available, also there is SSH link available. So through SSH key you can access the lab, access the project. So I would recommend that is more secure, and you should use using the SSH key. You need to configure your project so that GitLab also understand that yes, this machine is known to me, and I am allowed to take all the changes from this machine. So these are the steps how you are going to add your key. Like if you have already key generated previously for some of the reasons, or you did some exploration, so simply open that id rsa.pub file, and you can copy the SSH key, and you can go to your GitLab project, and there you have settings. Go to settings, and then you have the SSH key part. Then so this is according to your project. So go to your project and add that SSH key here. Okay, then add the key. So now you are able to communicate with your from your local machine to the remote repository through SSH secure key. Okay, so if you want, I can simply show you how you are going to do this. So, just give me a second. My browser is hanging, I guess. So any questions so far?
Can you explain me what is the purpose of staging area?
Yeah, staging area is like say you have 10 number of files or 10 number of directory in your working directory. Okay, so just a second. So there are 10 number of directory or files. So you have cloned your repository from remote and you started working on those files. Suppose you have modified 3 files. Okay, so how Git will know that these 3 files only I need to commit? So you need to move those 3 files into a staging area. Then only Git will read the staging area and Git will understand that okay, these 3 files and these lines or these words I need to going forward I need to put these things into the remote repository. So that is called the staging area. Like you can easily understand, like if you are working in a project, you have different environments like development environment, your QA environment, your pre-production environment, and your production environment. Okay, so the pre-production environment in some of the industry we are defining as a staging area. Okay, so staging environment. So whatever the final changes you did after the validation in QA, you are moving that build to your staging area. So of course here human being only decides whether that will move to your production area or not. So consider that human being as a Git. So Git will understand that yes, this is the staging area and now I am going to move it to the production. Is it clear?
Yeah. Thanks.
Okay. Let me open my Chrome browser. So whenever you are going to first time use it, so you need to register it. Okay, so while you're going to register, it will ask you your full details. So you are smart enough, we can provide all the things and we can register it. So after you register, there are I guess email verification is there. You will get in link so that you can verify by clicking on that link. You will redirect to this GitLab account. You need to log out and then sign in with your credential, whatever you have provided while creating. So here I have already created, so I'm just clicking into the sign in. So after you signing, you will see this type of screen. So here you have new projects. Okay, so you can create the new project here, create a blank project, or and you can give the name like okay, and here you have options. You can give the description, whatever you want to see this project is for what. You can, so for now I'm just giving this as a public. You can give the private as well, and I'm just clicking this so that the readme file will be created by GitLab only. So what is readme file? Readme file is like this is the description of your project, how your project is structured, what are the details, like what are the environments you are using, what kind of versioning you are using, that you can mention here, and little bit glimpse about if your this is your automation project, so you need to mention how you are going to execute this automation, how the environment is getting set up, so that if anybody wants to work on this project, he or she first read this readme file and he or she can understand what is this project about and how it works. So this is the basic idea of your project itself. So I'm just doing create a project. Okay. So after creating this project, I can simply option this is the clone. So these are two URLs, like this is the SSH URL, this is the HTTPS URL. So both are secure. So I would recommend to use clone with SSH. So you can simply copy this URL, and whenever you are going to use it, you will use that URL. So before moving into that, I am just showing you how you are going to configure a SSH key. So here settings, go to your home page and go to your settings, and here the SSH key. So here you can add your SSH key. Okay, so how you are going to generate your SSH key from the machine? So prior to that, you have already installed your Git tool which you are going to use, like Git. I am using here Git Bash. So simply go to your folder where you want to do it, and you can do Git Bash here. So after the installation, you will get these options, Git Bash and okay. So here you can say SSH hyphen keygen. If you don't have key, you can directly run this command, and no need to provide anything. You simply enter, and you will get a file generated. So if you want to do more secure, so you can use the credentials as well in their password and something which is there in the option. So you can do it like that. Okay. So I have already created the SSH key. So I am just simply reading that. So while you create this, you will get the path where that is being created, itrsa.pop, it_rsa.pop file, which here, if you see, so this is the file, id_rsa.pop. So I am simply opening that. id_, if you see, you have two files, id_rsa, id_.pop. So id_rsa is your private key, and but here I am going to use your public. So this is the key which I am going to use. Copy it, and here you can paste it. Okay. So here you have expiry options. You can give the, if you want this key to be limited for 6 months or 3 months or 2 days, you can give the expiry date, so that after that you cannot connect to this project. Okay, what is the problem here? Okay, might be this key already added, so it is not showing me to add it. So I'm just generating one more. So it is asking me, this is the file where it's going to save. Okay, so it already exists. Yes, I am going to overwrite it. I'm not giving any phrases or phrases again. So this is, I think, for security point of view, you can give a password here. So now the key has been generated, and I am simply going to okay. So now this is added. Okay, you can remove at any time as well. So now we need to clone this project. So this is the project, and here I am going to copy the SSH, and here I am saying git clone and the URL. So before that, just I am showing you this is the directory where I am going to clone it. Okay, so there is no project here. Okay, so now you can see this project is now cloned. You open it. So I have .git and readme.md file which we have created from the GitLab. So now I am good to go with my changes, whatever I am going to change it here in this project. Okay, so we reached till here. So this is a recommendation to customize your Git environment. Like there is a file called .git config file where you have to enter your username, email ID, so that, and this is the one which will help you to track your changes in the project or your contribution to the project. So if you are not going to use this, so it will be difficult to analyze, or difficult to justify what you have done. Okay, so these are the commands you can use, like git config global username, global email ID. So if you are in your organization, you can put your name. If you are doing a private project of your own personal project, you can use your Gmail account, Yahoo account, whatever you are going to configure here. Okay, so make sure that email ID should be matched with your GitLab account email ID. Okay, so that when we are I'm talking about when you are working in your personal project. Okay, so git config, and so it will list these parameters actually. What are the credentials you are going to use? So here you can see the email ID and the name I have already configured. So you will see after the changes. So if you want to change this email ID to something else, so git config global double hyphen user dot name. Okay, if you want to see this, so it will show you this. So if you want to change it, you just simply write your name here. Okay, email similarly for your email ID. So if you want to change the color also, so you can modify the color as well. So these are basic environment setup before moving to the actual work. So I think we have discussed this. So a little bit glimpse like how the life cycle works. Like you did the cloning operation, which we did currently. So we got the working copy. If you, since we have not created any file there, so we just got readme.md file. If you want to change the readme.md file or edit it or move the file, So you can simply do the changes here and modify the working copy. Then modify the working copy means while you are doing this operation, if this other changes came into your central repository, so you can simply update your working directory. Then you check the differences, what I did the changes. If everything goes fine, then you can review the changes and commit those, so that will move to your staging area. And after the commit, you can directly push your operations to the remote repository. And by the time, if you see there are some mistakes or you got some review comments that this needs to be changes, so you can again fix your changes or fix your mistakes. Then you can again push your operations. So this is the complete life cycle of Git, how the file and how the trend you need to follow. Okay. Then called tracked and untracked files. So what is that? Tracked files are like the files which Git know. Okay. Non-tracked files are like which Git doesn't know, and it will only known to Git when you add those to the staging area. So like the edited files or modified files or new files, those are called as untracked files because those are not moved to stage area, so Git doesn't know about those. So Git is not able to track those files. So those are called untracked files. So now since you did the cloning of your project, so all the files which come from the remote repository to your local system is now tracked files. Whenever you change any file or modify those files, that you need to tell Git that these are my modified files and I add this to the staging area, then only Git will track those files. Okay, so this is the basic difference between tracked and untracked files. So while we do the hands-on, we'll see how it looks like, how Git is representing the tracked and untracked files, so that before committing anything, before adding to the staging area, you can understand that yes, which files I need to put into staging area. Okay, so now the main exercise, how we are going to use the basic commands. So git clone I have already explained. So this is the command and this is your remote repository URL. So to clone system. So here how it works, if you simply give the URL, so it will create the directory if it is already not created. If you want to create with your specific directory name, so you can simply specify after the URL your directory name. So it will create a directory by your name and before that you need to create a directory and then only it will clone that remote repository into that directory. Okay, so if you are not going to give directory name, it will by default create the directory with your project name which is available in your GitLab. So here Git session I have given eDevOps Guru Git session. So if you see here it has been created like eDevOps Guru Git session. Okay. So next command is like git status. How can you check that which files are modified, which files are new, which files are modified but not staged? So this is the basic command git status. You can use it after your modification has been done. So how it looks like, I can create two files, vi fast_1.txt. So I'm sorry. Here I need to move into that directory. Okay, so cd. So I am now in the project. So here you can see if you did the cloning, so you got this project and there is also a terminology called master. So what is this master actually? This is your nothing but your branch, or you can say the current timeline of your working repository. So just for more sure, I can show you one thing. So if you, it's like this is the, you can say this is the working branch, and this is called your master. So here now we are here. Okay. So here what I'm going to do, I'm adding some files. So my master will be moved to here when I will commit those changes. So this is my the second timeline. So this was my first timeline, which is currently I'm here. Okay. So Git, what Git does, Git simply did a snapshot of this current repository and it stores as a master. So going forward, when we discuss the branching concept, I will make you understand how branching works. So simply, whenever you do a feature changes, you simply create a branch from here. So this is your feature branch 1, and you can do whatever changes you want to do. And after this, if you want that this has to be merged to your master, so this will be merged here. So this is your feature branch and this is your master branch. Now the timeline is here. Okay. So for now you just understand. So this is your master branch. So here I'm going to create file. Okay. And I am just writing this. This is my first file of project, and I am going to save it. Okay. So if you go into the directory, I think I need to bit more. Okay. So here I got a file created, and if you open this, so I have this string I have added now. Okay. So now I have added a new file. So just write git status. You will see this is the file which is in untracked state. So git doesn't know about this file currently. Okay, so this is in red state. It is saying this is your untracked file. So it will also suggest what you need to do for these files. So you simply add this file to include in what you will be committed. So the next suggestion is to make it tracked. You need to add this file. Okay. So if you use this command for a short summary, it will show you double question mark. So this means it is untracked and new file. Okay. So here you can see a new file that are not tracked. Okay. So the next set of thing is like I need to add those files because then only I can be able to explain to tell Git that these are my new files, or these are my this is my modified file which you need to take care of, which you need to track of. So git add. Okay. So if I check now it is showing yes, it is green, means now Git is able to track these files with a tag like new file. So Git will understand that this is a new file for me, so I need to add that whenever user tells me that you add these files, you add these to your remote repository. Okay. So stage unstage area we have already I have already mentioned. So how you can you just before committing in, like now this file is a new file. So if you want to check, it will not show what is the difference because this is a new file. I am going to add some more content in that file. My second line I am adding. Now you can see, so this is tracked. Now you are not seeing this is untracked. This is tracked, but now it is modified file. But okay, so now it is in modified state. So if you run this command, so it is a new file added and now it is in modified state. So if I want to see what is the modification I did, I simply run git diff. It will show you that this is the new line I have added. So this is the original line before modification, and now I have added a new line. If I modify this line, it will show that this is deleted, like minus, and new has been added. So let's do that as well. Okay, this is my first file, file of project, and I am enjoying it. Now you see the diff. So this was my previous line, and now I have modified that line like this. So this is in the new snapshot, Git will store these two lines. So it will not track now this line. Okay. And if you see the Git status, it is simply saying that this is the modified file and this is the new file. Why it is showing both these? Because we have not committed this file yet. Okay. So now we are going to commit our changes. Like we are all set, like we did all the changes. Now we are going to say that yes, I want to commit my changes, like I want to store these changes now, and then I will push this to my remote repository. So the command is like git commit -m. M is the message which I am going to tell that for this commit these are the changes. So I can mention here my first commit to eDevOps. Okay. So what it says in response, that this is the master branch where I am working on, and this is the commit message through which I am committing my changes, and one file has been changed, one insertion, because this is the insertion I did, and create mode, this is something we need to decode to understand what is this create mode, and this is the file name which I did the changes. Okay, so till now all thing is in local. I did all these things in local only. It is not yet moved to my remote. So I can do offline. I can do anything. I can disconnect my internet and I can work on this. Okay. Now I'm going to push those changes. So this is the SH1 checksum. So this is the ID actually. SH1 commit ID. Okay. So whenever you do the final commit, final merging, then if you see the git log, so you will see this ID is your SSS ID in the history that can be tracked. We'll see that. So there is a command called git commit -a-m. So if you don't want to add those files, here we executed two different commands like git add and git commit. So if you want to merge those two commands in a single command, then this is the command git commit -a-m, then commit message. So it will simply add your commit message to your commit and also add that file to your staging area. So let's see if we can see git log now. Yes. So this is the initial commit which we did when we cloned the file, and now my first commit to DevOps. So this is now in the tracked condition. So you can see this is the SHA. Yes, you can see, you can match it. This is the SHA key and this is the SHA key. So it will show the short form only for the first 6 or 7 digits, and this is the complete SHA list. So you can easily track what changes has been done so far. So there are different options in git log history. You can go to this githcm.com to see different combinations. Like if you want to see last 3 commits, so you can see git log -3. It will show the last 3 commits, which is not origin to the remote, or so there are a lot of options available. I guess 13-14 options are available with git log. Now comes there are few more commands like how can you remove a file, how can you see the detailed of your commit. So if you see git show commit id and you want to move some file from one directory to another directory, so this is also a git mv file. So if you know a little bit about Linux, so it is more or less similar, rm, move, copy, so all those are similar commands like Linux. So to remove a file from git, you have to remove it from your tracked files and then commit it. Okay, if you want to remove from the remote as well, so you need to first delete it from your local, remove it, then you push the changes to your remote, so that in the latest commit you will see that these are mine, that file has to be deleted. So from remote also it will be deleted, because in the latest snapshot or latest commit you don't have that file. So do not forget to push that when you did any deletion of your file. Okay, so unless it is required, you do not do any deletion, because by mistake if something has been deleted, that will also a problem. But since this is distributed, so someone can restore that by simply copying its local project to the remote repository. Okay, if I git show commit id, I can so let's see if you can give the short form, if it works or not. Yes. So this is the commit detail. It will show you what are the changes we did. Okay. Now is git fetch and git pull. Like since we did already the git clone, so there is no point of doing the git pull. Where git pull works, like you have, as I mentioned earlier, you have 5-6 people working or 10 members working on your project. Everybody is doing the changes on a hourly basis or daily basis. And if you want to update your local repository so that I can have the latest code which is available in remote, so you need to do a git pull operation. Okay, so it is recommended that whenever you do create any branch in your local, first you go to master and do a git pull, then you create a branch, so it will be good. Although we can do it later as well, while you do the changes and going to the final state of merging, it will show you that your commit is behind, or you can see the conflicts. Then you need to resolve at that stage. So before making any branches, it's good to always do it with pull. So one more thing, git pull is when you do a git pull, whatever changes you did, you have in your local system, it will directly merge your the remote code into your system. So what is the difference between git fetch and git pull? Git fetch will store it in your local system, but it will not directly merge it. It will ask you if you want to do automatic merge or not. Whenever you agree on that, then only it will be merged. Otherwise, it will not merge. So if you want to just see the changes, what are in the remote repository in the latest code, so you can use git fetch command. Although you have GUI option available in GitLab, you can see what are the latest changes, what are the latest commits your team members have done. You can easily track through that. So the git fetch command is very less used in the industries, but yes, this is a option. Then it's a time to push your changes to the remote repository. So the syntax is like git push remote repository name and your branch. So here by default name of your remote repository is origin. So git push origin, and here I have not created any branch, so I am just mentioning the master. So here it is showing that this is the account on the project where it has been pushed, and total 3 files has been pushed, including your readme and all those. So if you now check your this, that file which you have created must be here. So this is your fast.txt, and you can see this is my fast file or project. So here you can see that we added a second line as well, but here it is not visible because we forgot to commit that. We simply added it, but we forgot to commit that. Okay. So here you see if the file in the local also, I think it should be not visible. Oh, it's there, but we have not committed yet. Okay. If you do now, you can do one thing. You can do a git pull. Let's see what this is. Okay. Okay, because in your remote also we have one line, and that line still exists here, so that is why it is saying it is already up to date. Now I'm git add and now I can see git status, it is modified. Now I'm doing git commit fnmi my second commit to DevOps, and now I'm going to push it. Now it should be visible. Yes. Okay. So there is one operation called git stash. So like I mentioned previously, like you are while I was explaining the tagging concept. So you have like production 1.0 and you are already in field, you are working on production 2.0 release and with a feature branch like X1. So suddenly you got a request that we got a production issue and we immediately need to fix production 1.0 release and we need to give a patch on that. So but you don't want your changes to be discarded. So what you can do with that situation, you can simply do the git stash command. So it will create a temporary stack in your local repository and it can simply put down all your changes in that stack and it will be saved. Then you change to your master branch or production 1.0 branch, do whatever the changes, you fix the bug and everything. You done your changes and now you push the page into your production. Now after that activity, after 2 or 3 days or 5 days, now you are again catching up your feature X.1 release task. So now you move to your feature X.1 and then you do the git stash pop. So it will automatically restore from the stack to your branch. So the task which we have done, it is not wasted, it is not deleted. So you can save it in your in the temporary stack. So that is very helpful when you face this kind of scenario. Or another scenario is like if somebody wants that you can simply check my code, test my code or validate my code. If your colleague or team member is saying that just simply test my code, so you can simply switch to that branch and code it. So in that scenario also you can do this stash operation, and when you done with that testing, you can move to your branch and you can simply do the pop. So how do you fix your mistakes? Like you did some changes, you committed it, but you have not pushed it your remote to your remote repository. But you want that, yeah, that file I need to be restored again. So there are two ways. So simply run git checkout and file name. It will discard all the changes of that file which you have done in your local branch or local system. And another one is git checkout head and file name. That is the pointer, the head. I have mentioned that head is simply the pointer. So it will move to your the pointer which is your head, and when you check out that file, so pointer will move to your last commit. Okay. So move head pointer with git reset. This is also a command like if you see in this screen the diagram. So we have three commits, like commit 3 is in the master, and now we are trying that no, I want to discard this commit 3 and I want my local repository to be in commit with commit 2. So you can simply write this command git reset -- hard and your commit ID. So you can first check git log and then you decide which commit you need to be moved into your current header, current head. Then you can use this command and you can move to that commit. So git tagging, tag I have already told you how it works and what is the purpose of this tag. So simply you do one thing here. If you say git tag, I don't have any tag available, so I want this to be, my changes to be in version 0.1. so I can say git tag -a. The command is like -a is addition of your version and -m is the message which you want to add with this tag. Okay, so -a version 0.1, because this is a minor version I am releasing. -m with the, so this is the first dev work. Okay, so now you see git tag. So now I have tag like version 4.1, but here I have done these changes in the local only. It is not yet reflected in your remote repository. So how people will know? If you say go to this project, how many of you are new? You see the tag is 0. There is no tag added yet. Okay, but I want this tag to be added permanently so that everybody can easily see this is the tag, and I will further work on this. So this is the command by which you can push your tag to the remote one, so that everybody can see and everybody can work. It is called as sharing of your tag. So git push origin, your remote name, and then your tag name version 0.1. Okay. So now it is saying new tag has been added here, and if I go into here, you can say I have tag has been added, and this is the commit. Okay, so this is the first effort.
If we want to add for a specific repository, then how we will do it?
So this is the branching concept. Why branching is needed, how you do the merging of this branch. So a bit earlier I have explained your master branch and feature branch. So there is a huge concept of great branching and merging as well. Like I said, if you have a development environment, you want to create a test environment, you want to create a staging and production. So those all can be maintained through your branching system as well. So generally, what trend is being followed when you going forward learn DevOps more. So generally how it follows, like this is your master branch, and there is an admin here who can handle this branch. Okay, no other member can merge directly into your master. So here it is a branch, this is called your dev branch, and another branch I have not from here, you can say from master only. Here I can say this is your QA validation branch. Okay, so the developers are working on this branch. They create feature 1, they can create feature 2, and whenever this task got completed, it will be merged to your dev branch. Feature 2 will be merged to your dev branch, and if everything goes fine, then only it will be merged to either your master branch, or you can simply do this will be merged to your QA branch. Okay, and after QA has been validated, if there is some changes, then again this workflow will work, and if everything is done, it will be merged to your master branch, so that I am 100% sure everything is working fine here, and this can be go to your production. So this master branch can be handled as a production branch, and this is your dev branch, and this is your clear branch. So although this is very small example, so in large industries and you have very large projects, so there are a lot of branching concepts are there. Dev, dev QA, like development team also wants to test in an environment where replica of QA, and they want to test it there, and then it will go to a QA environment. Then after that your pre-production environment, because production environment is not accessible to everyone, like QA member also cannot access production environment, so pre-production is also required, because you want to do the load test, you want to check the performance test, all those things. So then only it will be your move to your production. So this is basically how branching works, the concept. But how Git understands which branch is what? So this is simply a set of commands like other features. So you can create a branch using Git branch and branch name. Simply, so here from master, if I want to create a branch like Git branch feature 1. So if I see Git branch, so before that I have only master. Now I have feature 1 is another branch, but Git is saying you are currently in master branch only. So if you want to do the work, you need to switch to your feature branch. What is the command to that? Git checkout. So simply, if you do not remember any of the commands, you just simply type git check, then simply click the tab button. It will automatically show you the list of commands which is available, list of options. Okay. Checkout and feature 1. So now if you see, this is my this was my master branch where I was, and now currently I am in feature branch, feature 1 branch. So if you see, now I am in feature 1 branch. Whatever the changes you want to do, you just do here the changes, and finally you are good to go with merging with your local, or you can push these changes to your remote repository. So when you push your changes to the remote repository, it will automatically, this branch will be visible to your in your GitLab account. Okay, so if you want to merge these two commands, git branch and git checkout, so the option is like git checkout -b. So this will solve your both the commands in a single command. So it will create a branch feature 1, and then it can simply check out to that branch. So this is a one command with two commands has been merged in one. If you want to delete a branch, so there are two options. How do you delete from remote? How do you delete from local? Remote branch deletion with a option like small d, you can delete the branch from the local, but before deleting it will ask you if any changes have not been pushed or not been merged. So it will ask you to first commit and merge those changes, then only it will allow to delete the branch. And hyphen capital D is to delete the branch from remote. This is the option you want to do forcefully delete of the branch. So you have not committed, you have not pushed your changes, but still you want that my branch needs to be deleted because I have created a wrong branch name or something like that. So you can forcefully delete that branch. But try to avoid this forcefully delete of the branch. It might cause some it might mislead some of your codes. Remember that whenever you delete a branch or something, you need to whenever you want to delete a branch from remote, so you need to just simply write this command git push origin delete and branch name. So it will delete from the remote as well. So it is good practice that whenever your task has been completed, you should delete your branch from local and from remote as well, because it will it is unnecessarily occupying the spaces. So you can release the space by deleting this mechanism. You can rename a branch like git branch -m, old branch name and new branch name. Suppose I have created a branch called mx110, because that is my iTrack number where I was working for the story or epic. So I want to create a feature branch based on my Jira ticket or bug ID something, so that when you merge that, it will be directly reflected in your Jira. No need to do the tracking and maintain Excel sheets. But that branch name should be 111, but you have mistakenly created that 110. So in that case, you can easily rename your branch like 111, and you can work accordingly. Proceed with your work. What is the merging command? If you want to merge it, so git merge and branch name. So if you want to merge it remotely, so we'll see how we are going to do it through GitLab. If you want to merge it locally, so you can use this command git merge and branch name. A few advanced topics like git bash and git and cherry picking I'm going to discuss here. Any questions so far? And I'm getting a bit late. We're running a bit late.
So Deepu, there is one question on the chat. If you can take it now, or if you want to have a break of 10 minutes, we can take a break and
Okay.
then.
So what is rebase? Rebase is simply you are working somewhere in the from the master branch. You have created a branch feature one, and you are working with your feature development. In the meantime, some of your team members have already worked on a feature, and that code has been reviewed, approved, and it is merged into your master. So now the master timeline has been updated. But when you created your branch from the master, it was in timeline T1. But now your master is ahead of timeline T2. So how do you get those master changes into your branch, so that you will able to do the development in your in the latest code? So the rebasing is the concept where you can rebase with your master branch, and all the latest commits will be present in your current branch. So the simple command is like git checkout your branch name, and then do your changes whatever you are going to do. And while doing the rebasing, you need to do the command like git rebase master, and then check out to the master, and then do git merge with your branch name, so that we'll get the latest changes with your from the master into and merge into your local branch. So this is another concept like cherry picking. This is simply like you did the final development and all those things are complete, and now we are going that I have worked on 3 features, but now I want to drop a feature and just going for with 2 features. So cherry pick is the concept where you can pick the commits or features you want to go with your master. So if you see this diagram, the picture says we have master like A, B, C, D, and from B you have created branch, and we have developed E, F, G feature. Then if you want to only have F feature in your master branch, so before that you need to check out your master and cherry pick the commit ID of this feature. the final commit ID of this feature. So the master will be look like this: A, B, C, D, and F. So you will get only the selected feature or the selected commit which you want to be in master. Okay. So for now we have this much for Git. We discuss all these commands I've listed down, so it will be helpful for you if you want to see a glimpse what are the commands we have learned or what are the commands we need to do hands-on. So this is the list of commands we have. Any questions so far?
So I think Ravindra was also facing some issue for authentication. So he has just posted on chat.
Yeah, hi. Actually, I'm getting authentication error. I tried to
This station
check again.
-S A Ravindra.
Yes.
Where do you see this option A?
No, actually, I'm asking about my git push. When I do git push origin master, I'm getting authentication error. I mean, I am not able to connect to my GitLab repository.
Why? Git status.
So Ravindra, this could also be because of if you save incorrect credentials, in that case also you get this error. So you can.
Yeah, I'm checking out on this. Actually, I removed the credential and put again. I think it could be another region since I have done
Ravindra,
my.
where did you got this option A? Am I audible?
Yes, I can hear you. It was initially I got it A option, and you explained after our class, so I understand A is for attached, and after
Anil, am I audible?
that my question is
yes,
another
we can
question.
hear you. Can
there
you
were
hear
two questions.
Ravindra?
I'm not
Ravindra
able to
is
hear anybody.
speaking. Can you hear him?
Can you guys hear me, Anil? Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Hello?
I can hear you too. It's fine, no problem.
Okay, so I think Vibhu is not able to hear. Let's.
Oh, sorry. My speaker was somehow off. Sorry, guys.
Now, can you hear us?
No problem.
Yes. I'm
Vibhu.
so sorry. I don't know how it happened.
No problem.
Whatever the recording we did or whatever the session, you were able to hear us, right?
Yes.
Oh, thanks.
Yes, we could hear you. You were not able to hear us back. So Ravindra has some doubt, he's facing some issue. So I think we can stop recording here and then we can just continue with the lab hands-on. Correct?
Yeah, sure.
Otherwise, recording would be very big.